Here's the Canon RF 28 to 70 millimeter f2 lens that I got for a long photo shoot I was doing in a studio for a marketing campaign for a small company. And I wanted to try this out with my EOS R because of all of the awesome reviews I've been hearing about the versatility with the 28 to 70 on an EOS R. And I'm going to just briefly, as quickly as possible, talk about my experiences and my opinion of the 28 to 70, mostly for stills, but then also for video, and I'll have some video clips at the end of this video. And I'm going to compare this to the 24 to 105 and a few other lenses that I like to use in the L series. The good things about the 28 to 70 is all of the positive reviews you've heard of it are all true. This lens is truly fantastic, and it's very professional, a very clean, a little distortion, no chromatic aberration that I could tell of at any aperture I was shooting at. It was really clean. That's the best word I can describe of this lens. The kind of shots you see in magazines, this is the kind of lens, the clarity, the sharpness, and it's awesome. I was very impressed about all of the images I was taking at, from f2 all the way to f8. I was primarily shooting at f6, 5.6 for a lot of my images, but as I was changing up the f-stop for different setups, f2 was brilliant, very buttery. The bokeh, the out of focus areas were nice and beautiful, very professional. And it's really hard to replicate that in another zoom. I can't really think of another zoom that I've used of Canon that could replicate the lens quality and out of focus areas. Something similar to this lens would be the 24 to 70 f2.8, which I also have. And that is, in my opinion, a better purchase. This is a better rental. I would not personally buy this. So now I'll get into a lot of the things I don't like about this lens after the image quality. The image quality, really second to none. And you're getting a lot of value for this if you wanted to get multiple primes. If you wanted to get a lot of primes like the 28, 35, 50, and 70, which is kind of an 85, not really an 85, but kind of an 85, you get all that in one lens. One massive lens. Okay, so now with the things I don't like about this lens. First being the price. The price is $3,000 US as of this recording. Maybe you can find it used in a few months, but right now it's $3,000, and it's large. It's massive. It has to be massive for an f2 to get at all of these focal ranges. You would think the RF with the mirrorless, they would go smaller, which is all of the other mirrorless, all the other manufacturers making mirrorless cameras, they make all of their lenses smaller. Canon seems to be the only manufacturer that makes their mirrorless lenses bigger than their regular DSLR lenses. So here's a 24 to 105 f4 Mark II, which is one of the bigger Canon L series lenses, zoom lenses. And I thought this was the biggest zoom lens I was ever gonna hold, short of telephoto lenses like 70 to 200. But from that mid-range, I thought this was going to be the biggest one, where I was wrong. The 28 to 70 is much larger. It does weigh a lot more than the 24 to 105, or at least it feels like it weighs a lot more. The filter thread is 95 millimeters. There's not a lot of other filters that you would use for other lenses that you could swap onto this one, like an 82, 77, 67, 95. I don't even know of another lens that takes a 95 filter thread. But so it's really massive, and it's very expensive, and it has no image stabilization. These lenses have image stabilization. This one has nothing. So when you're handheld, and I was shooting a lot handheld, luckily I was shooting at, I knew enough to shoot at a higher shutter speeds, and I have my own ways of hand holding it that stabilizes it, but in video mode, it gets pretty shaky when you're zoomed in. It won't get as shaky if this lens were lighter and smaller. So there is a benefit for it being that massive. When it goes on a small body like the EOS R, you are holding the camera by the lens because it's way too large to support the entire lens with the camera body. By holding the camera body like this, way too front heavy. So what you end up doing when you're shooting video, or what I ended up doing, was holding the lens like this with a very tight grip. And as I was shooting video, it'd be more stabilized just because of the weight of it. But there's no image stabilization in this massive lens. So that's, to me, a big thumbs down. I wish it had image stabilization. Other than that, the focusing is really quiet. I can't even hear the focus motor in video, which is great. It's a completely silent lens. They have another ring here that you can set for aperture or ISO. That's nice. It's clicky. You can hear it click. You can't de-click that. So if you are going to use that to control exposure during video, you're going to hear it. But it's good that they have this programmable lens ring, extra lens ring that all the other lenses don't have. And here, it doesn't zoom out as long as you would think. This is quite a conservative range to pull out in. And there's a lens lock on this side. So that's my overall opinion of it so far. I really like the focusing. The focusing is amazing, really fast, really sharp. When I was doing a lot of touch focus, where I would touch the LCD screen on what I wanted focused, and I don't even think I got one out of focus after taking, I took a little over 2,000 photos, and I don't remember it getting out of focus. So that has a lot to do with the camera and the sensor of the EOS R, but also this lens. It's really fantastic. I don't see anyone or a lot of people buying this. And the technology with the RF is, I would say, maybe ahead of its time, which is an odd thing to say about Canon. Canon is usually behind in technology, but when it comes to this RF mount and this lens, I think this is maybe too far ahead, because there's no other camera besides the EOS R and then the RP. Maybe there's a few other cameras that are going to come out that's going to support the RF, but the RF mounts, they're not backwards compatible. At least with the EOS, the DSLR mounts, you have the adapters that you can put on the RF lens mount cameras. You can also put it on almost any other mirrorless cameras with adapters. But the RF lenses, you're going to pay a lot, and you can only use them on the EOS R and RF cameras, which aren't a lot of cameras right now. I'm assuming that Canon is going to eventually release cinema cameras with RF mounts. Here's the EOS R with the RF 28 to 70 millimeter. I'm shooting at f2. This is for UHD 4K 30p. So there is a crop when it comes to the EOS R and 4K. Now I'm going to zoom into the 70 millimeter length. There's no image stabilization, so I'm trying to hold this as steady as I can, handheld. One advantage of having such a large lens is that I can hold it steadier than if this was a lens that was lighter. I'm outside now. I'm shooting at an f4. This is still UHD 4K 30p. And I'm going to show how cropped in this lens is when I go from 4K UHD and I'm going to go to HD. So you'll see the full 28 millimeter focal range. Right now you're not. You're seeing a cropped in version at the 28 millimeter end. Now this is HD 28 millimeters, so it's the full 28 millimeters, And this is, I haven't really moved. I'm handheld, but I haven't moved position of the camera to this plant I'm in front of. So you can see how much it crops in to the lens. But this is what full HD, taking full advantage of the focal range, the 28 to 70. So here's 28, I'm gonna zoom in to 70. Now that looks similar to what the cropped in version looked like when I was at UHD 4K. And this is at 70 millimeters. I am now back to UHD 4K. I'm at the 28 millimeter focal range, but look how cropped in it is. It's almost like it turned into the 70 millimeter focal length that I was at the HD. But now I'm going to zoom in to the 70 millimeter end of this lens in UHD 4K. That bokeh is very pretty though. The sharpness and focus speed of this lens is very good. Seems to be whatever I'm want to be the center of focus, it's just locking in on it. And it's locked in very smoothly. And the sharpness is amazing, the clarity of this lens. I'm just looking at the LCD screen, but this looks very much like a $3,000 lens should look.